Hi, bitch besties. It's your main bitch, Melly. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to another episode of the Judgy Bitch Pod.
You again because it's our favorite topic, true crime.
Yes, I am so pumped.
Me too. And this case has been on the media for years. We're talking about Karen Reed today. There's so much detail to this case. There's a lot that I prepared for us. There's a lot I'm going to read just to set the background a little bit and give the facts. And then we can dive into the details. And there's a lot we can discuss. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. This case is as crazy as it can get, from hung jurors to suspicious facts, incriminating text messages, and one sensational trial after another. Oh, and of course, the police is involved. This is the case about the murder of police officer John O'Keefe, who was found dead in the snow outside a cop's house, and his fiancée, Karen Reed, was accused of murdering him by drunkenly backing the car into him after she dropped him off there after a night out at bars together. Sounds weird? Wait until you hear the full story. It all started early morning, January 29, 2022. Boston police officer John O'Keefe's body was found in the snow. He had multiple skull fractures, swelling and bleeding inside his brain, and also the cold. This case was so hard to prepare for because there's just so much detail and witness reports from the trials. So let's see if we can make sense out of any of that. Let's see. But let's start in the beginning. Karen Reed is a former financial analyst in her early 40s, about my age. But if anybody asks, I'm 25. John O'Keefe was a 46-year-old Boston police officer. He had essentially adopted and was raising his niece and nephew after his sister and her husband passed away within months of each other. Karen and John had been dating for nearly 2 years. On a snowy night in January 22, the couple went out drinking with friends. Karen later stated she had 4 drinks, saying some were only sips and that she felt fine to drive. Brian Albert, a Boston police officer who was also out that night, invited people back to his house. Surveillance shows John leaving the bar, holding a drink, like a little roadie, and he asked Karen to drop him off at Brian Albert's house. She dropped him at the bottom of the driveway. He was not wearing a coat. It was snowing. He was not wearing a coat during the snowstorm. Karen says she watched him walk toward the side door while she stayed in the car checking messages. After waiting a few minutes and hearing nothing, she drove home upset. After 12:30 a.m., Karen left multiple angry voice messages accusing John of cheating. Over the next several hours, she called him 49 times. Believing something was wrong, she contacted friends for help. One of them was Carrie Roberts, a close friend of John who had not been out that night. Carrie called local hospitals and the police to see if John had been found. No one reported seeing John after he left the bar. Karen decided to search for him herself. She picked up another friend, Jennifer McCabe. That name is very important. Keep that in mind, Jennifer McCabe. Karen, Jen, and Carrie went to John's house. That was captured on his home surveillance footage. They searched there for about 10 minutes. The 3 then drove to Brian Albert's house, where Karen had dropped John off. As they approached the property, Karen spotted John lying in the snow. They called 911, reporting he had 2 black eyes, was cold to the touch, and was missing 1 shoe. That's also very important to the case, so keep that in mind. 2 black eyes and missing a shoe. John was wearing only a long-sleeve shirt. Karen was hysterically screaming, crying, inconsolable. She was placed on a psychiatric hold. Her phone was taken, and she was not allowed to contact anyone. John was pronounced dead at the hospital. Later, police went to Karen's home and questioned her without an attorney present. She admitted to drinking and dropping John off. Police then seized and towed her vehicle as evidence. Also very important, police took her car. The medical examiner ruled John's death caused by blunt force trauma to the head and hypothermia. Investigators later claimed pieces of Karen's taillight were found at the scene. Very important. Karen was then arrested in February 2022. Charges were later upgraded. Fast forward a little bit. In April 24, the first trial began. She was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence, leaving the scene after causing personal injury or death. She was facing a possible life sentence. The prosecution claimed Karen reversed her vehicle roughly 70 feet at about 24 miles per hour, striking John. They argued John fell backward, hit his head, and suffered a fatal skull fracture. The defense argued John's injuries were not consistent with being struck by a vehicle, claimed Karen was being framed. The trial ended in a mistrial due to a hung jury. Jurors were anonymous on some charges, deadlocked on others. Then another year forward, April 2025, the second trial began, nearly 1 year after the first trial. The case returned to court following the mistrial and hung jury. In the first trial, the prosecution brought in a new special prosecutor, Hank Brennan. Brennan was brought in to represent the case after the first trial failed to reach a verdict. So far the facts. Now we can jump into discussion. Shall we start with Karen Reed's statement and behavior?
Yes.
So the night when they found the body, the night when Karen and her two friends in the car found the body in the snow, Karen obviously was frantic, was screaming, was crying. She was seen on camera footage from the police body cameras, screaming and yelling. And apparently she was quoted as saying, "I hit him, I did this." What do you think?
Okay. So, as someone who, I don't like to admit this, but I have driven drunk. I think when you're
Allegedly. Let's just say allegedly, and let's just put the disclaimer out here that you and I were not professionals. We just know anything from the media, anything we're talking about is our own opinions, and everything is allegedly.
Yes,
So allegedly
absolutely.
may or may not have been driven drunk before.
Yes. Yeah, good. Good. I may have done the same thing that she did. Um, And obviously, like, you're drinking alcohol, your mind is altered. And then, I mean, just me being an anxious person, that's me, sober. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did I do this? I could have did this. Oh my gosh, like I'm questioning everything
Yeah.
because you're panicking, you're paranoid, you don't trust your own judgment. So it's like, oh my gosh, this really did happen. Could this have been me? So I think she's saying that in the sense like, I did this. Like I had to have, because what else makes sense? It doesn't make sense, like, what else could have happened if no one was there, you know?
Yeah. I think she was also so much in a state of shock that it was uncontrollable what came out of her mouth. I
Yeah.
don't think it was a confession per se, which a confession would be, she's conscious about what she's saying. Oh my God, I did this. It was more just complete out of nowhere. Oh my God, like you said, like, did I do this? Like, what happened here?
Right,
Like,
like, you're just
completely in
questioning
shock.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also the angry texts and voice messages she left. And remind you, I said she called him 49 times. The
Mhm.
prosecutors have pointed that this is a motive. She was so angry that she killed him. What do you make out of that?
Well, again, this past weekend, I got in an argument with my friend. I felt as though I did the same thing because, it's like you're waiting, you're sitting there and, time's passing and then you're just getting like progressively more angry. So it's like, yeah, she's like calling, like, what the hell? You're wasting my time. What's going on? Are we going to go in this house? Where are you? What's taking so long? It's late, there's a snowstorm. So I get it. Like, her patience is probably shot. And then again, she's drinking alcohol. So she's very, on edge and just angry. So I get it.
Yeah. So you don't think it's a motive? It's not like she
No.
planned on killing him because she was mad at them.
No, I think so. Like I said before, I think that for the first trial, originally, I did think she did this. But then, after the second trial and, hearing more facts about it, I'm like, okay, I can see where they painted the picture to say that she did this because, she was angry. So if she's angry, like, what do? You're in a fit of rage. You don't know what you're doing. You can't always control your emotions. So it's like
Yeah.
she's acting out. So I can see where they're saying she did this as a motive.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can't remember who was during the first trial, but at least at the beginning of my hearing about this case, I was like, something is off with her. I
Mhm.
also found it weird that she would film this Hulu documentary while she was preparing for trial.
Yeah.
Like, did she
Yeah.
do it for money because she knew her defense was going to be expensive, or did she do it for fame? And then maybe there's something to the story. And that threw me off a little bit too at the beginning. I must say, with the second trial and all this more information coming out, I kind of wrapped my mind around it better and more, and I understand where she's coming from. She was probably seeking for the publicity's help, so to speak, public's help.
Yeah, sure.
And then also somebody said if she had planned on murdering him because she was so angry and, wanted to kill him, why would she leave his body and another police officer's lawn? Like, why would she choose
Right.
that crime scene?
There's like so many cops involved. So it's like,
Yeah,
I don't think you would get away with that.
right, exactly. So that alone for me was like, yeah, this is bullshit. This is not a motive. She didn't plan on doing this. All right, let's talk a little bit about the evidence and the handling of the evidence and the scene issues. So when John's body was first discovered, there was no taillight pieces found on the scene. But then later that night, the detectives returned and reported finding taillight fragments. But then a video appeared from the police's garage where Karen's car was impounded to, and it appears to show the taillight being damaged in the police's garage. And with concerns raised about video tampering and mirroring, I remember seeing that video and it was like mirrored. It was like, and then home surveillance reportedly shows Karen's taillight working when she returned home. Which also questions remain whether a taillight would realistically shatter into so many pieces from striking a body. And then police collected evidence using red Solo cups and stored them in Stop and Shop paper bags. What do you think of that?
Like, that is insane. What was the reason for that? I think they were saying because there was like really bad weather and they just needed to hurry up and get it. Come on now. Come on. Solo cups? I
It
just
doesn't make sense. Even with the bad weather, I mean, there's not going to be fingerprints on the pieces of the tail light. So what are they afraid of losing due to weather? The pieces? They're not going to melt.
right. I don't know. And I'm like, there's no evidence bags in any of the police cars or like any of the police officers have anything that they could use.
And it would take days to get them to the crime scene. Like you couldn't have just called somebody to,
Right. Like solo cups. What the hell? It's
like
just
how did this
very
even come about?
unprofessional. Like, ugh.
Yeah. Did they have solo cups in their car? Where did the solo cups come from?
I think they came from the house. I could be wrong. I don't remember. I can't recall, but I think it came from the scene,
That
I
is
mean,
so weird to me.
it would be really weird if the cops had solo cups in their car and certainly didn't have evidence bags. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so bizarre.
It's so where those solo cups come from. I really want to know. I haven't seen that in any documentaries I watched. So I don't know where they came from. And if they came from the house, and we might touch on this later on, it makes it even weirder that the people from the house didn't come outside.
I know. Ugh, I know. That is like the one thing that really irks me. I mean, this whole case is just freaking crazy,
Yeah,
but uh, it just doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Let's talk about the investigators and the law enforcement conduct. So the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, admitted to sending inappropriate and sexist text messages about Karen Reed. The lead investigator, we're talking, right? He was later fired, raising questions about the integrity of this case and also other cases he worked on. I think other cases were now reopened from what he worked on within the last 10 years because of this. Yeah. In the second trial, prosecutors avoided highlighting Proctor, this guy, and did not call him as a witness. They did not call the lead investigator of the case as a witness. It drives me crazy. I can't. And then Brian Albert, whose house it was, the Boston police officer and homeowner, testified that John never entered the house. The inside of the house has never been searched. Brian Albert later destroyed his cell phone despite a court-ordered preservation request. ATF agent Brian Higgins, who had flirtatious texts and a kiss with Karen shortly before John's death, also disposed of his phone.
Why? If nothing happened, if you had nothing to hide, why get rid of your phones?
Yeah.
Truly, like, what was the reason? Like, it doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
Mm.
This whole case, like every single piece you're looking at, there's something shady about it. Starting with the lead prosecutor, and then like every detail, this policeman's house, the homeowner, Brian Albert, he destroyed off his phone, and they also had a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the injuries look like dog scratches or bites on John's arm. They got rid of the freaking dog.
I know.
What?
Everything that was involved with this case is now gone. Why?
Why? Yeah,
Mm.
it's so weird. And then the inside of the house was never searched. There is a
They
dead
never
body.
went in there.
There is a dead body on the lawn. The last witness said she saw him walking towards the door. It indicates he potentially entered the house, and now he's dead on the front lawn, and the inside of the house is never searched. Why?
Yeah, that is insane.
It
It
makes no sense to me.
makes no sense.
And especially remember that I read there was only one of his shoes found with the
Mhm.
body. Maybe somebody should have gone inside and looked for the other shoe.
Yeah, where's the other shoe? Where could it be? If it's not outside, where else could it be?
And remember I said he had a roadie, like a drink with him?
Mhm.
Where's that glass?
Who knows?
I don't know. I can't believe this is even real. Like I feel like we're talking about some funny movie that
I know.
the director didn't pay attention to the details.
I know, clearly.
I mean, I feel
But
bad for Karen
sadly, this
Reed.
is real life.
This is real life. I feel bad for her because her life is on the line, but also for John O'Keefe's family because they lost a loved one and they deserve to know what happened.
Yeah, and he deserves justice.
Exactly.
And the
Yeah.
sad part, I don't think with the way the system is and everyone involved, I don't think there will ever be justice. I don't think we'll ever know the truth.
No, no. Let's go down my list here. So the next topic is injuries and cause of death questions. So the medical examiner ruled John's death due to blunt force trauma and hypothermia, which is, dying in the cold. Photos show cuts on John's arm. Witnesses report 2 black eyes. Witnesses mean the 3 lady who found him. The defense later stated John also had a cut over his eye, a broken nose, no coat, and was missing 1 shoe. The defense argues these injuries suggest a physical altercation, not a vehicle strike. The prosecution maintains there was no evidence of a beating or defensive wounds. I mean, no defensive wounds. Yeah, if he was held and somebody else was beating him, there is no defensive wounds, right?
That
Or if the
or like,
dog attacked him or whatever,
yeah, that. So if he's intoxicated, I mean, you don't know how intoxicated he is.
Yeah.
If he is intoxicated and someone jumps him, he's caught off guard. He has no, recollection of like what's going on. And also, like, it could have been numerous people. Like, he could have been jumped by, everyone in the house. Like, we don't know. So it's like, because we don't know the actual situation that happened, yeah, that makes sense that there's no defense wounds.
Yeah.
He could have been hit on the back of the head or whatever. Like, we just don't know.
Right. What I find interesting, though, and I would agree with the defense here, that these injuries don't seem to come from being hit by a car. I mean,
Right.
I would assume if a man is being hit by a car, that his wherever the bumper hits, the legs
Mhm.
or the lower body would have injuries. Broken nose? How? 2 black eyes? I don't see
So
how that happens.
they were saying that because I was watching like a diagram of what could have happened.
Mhm.
So say he did get hit by a car. They said that if he did, he would have fallen back, hit his head, and the type of injury, the head injury, would
Yeah.
then cause raccoon eyes, which is,
Mhm.
black eyes. But which, okay, yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
But also his abdomen, like, his upper body, stomach, whatever,
Yeah.
your abdomen, whatever,
Yeah.
they would have some type of injuries, internal
Yeah.
bleeding, bruising, breakage, like, there's nothing.
Exactly.
So make that make sense?
Make that make sense. And the cut over his eye, I understand the raccoon eyes maybe, but the cut,
Mhm.
where's
Yeah,
the cut coming from?
and especially, like, over there, yeah, it just the angles of all of his injuries, like, nothing's
Yeah.
adding up.
And even the broken nose. I mean, unless he hit with his head the car or something, which I
Yeah.
cannot make sense out of. And also the arm, like,
Yeah, with his injuries with the arm, they were saying it looks as if it is dog bites
that's
or,
what I think.
scratches or whatever. But
Yeah.
then I can't remember, I wanna say it was the first trial, they were saying that they tested it and there's no saliva or anything having to do with an animal, but there was, like, food DNA, but
Mhm.
I'm like, that could have been from the dog, I don't know, but also they could have been cleaned, so I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's all over the place, and it makes no
Yeah.
sense.
I remember hearing that too in one of the documentaries, and I remember them saying that there was food, and they were questioning if the dog was fed, and then the dog bit.
Right.
I don't know. That explanation is very questionable, but still
Mhm.
makes more sense to me than saying that those injuries stem from being hit by a car.
Right. I think they are dog bites. My thing is, if they are, why wasn't there any DNA? But like I said, like everything was tampered, so we really have no idea.
Exactly. That's very true. Yeah. And who knows how the body was handled if the evidence was handled in a solo cup, you know?
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's hard to say that, but honestly. All right. Alternate theory raised by the defense. The defense claims John was injured inside Brian Albert's house, then left outside in the snow. The, they point to arm injuries consistent with a dog attack, noting a German Shepherd was in the home. The dog was rehomed shortly after the incident. The defense alleges a cover up involving people inside the house. Exactly what we were saying.
Right.
Yeah. Witness and testimony and timeline issues. Carrie Roberts testified that Karen spotted John from the back seat and screamed, "There he is." Carrie and Jen McCabe said they personally did not see the body at the moment. A snowplow driver testified he drove past the house multiple times and did not see a body despite clearly visibility of the yard. Now comes the interesting part. Phone records show Jen McCabe searching how long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. McCabe claims the search occurred after 6 a.m. once the body was found. She was inside the house that night and is Brian Albert's sister-in-law. The defense questions why Brian Albert, a police officer and first responder, never came outside to help or provide blankets. I think that's kind of, for me, that makes and breaks the case a little bit. This whole story is so freaking weird. So
Mhm.
there's police officers inside the house, including Jen McCabe, who is the sister-in-law of the police officer. He Googled how long to die at 2:27 a.m. in the morning. And then she is with Karen Reed in the car looking for the body at 6 a.m. Make that make sense to me, please.
It doesn't. I think it's crazy just how connected everyone is with each other.
Hmm.
And how, everyone is literally in the law enforcement or like married into the law enforcement. So I feel like, when you're in that crowd, you're always going to be backing each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like,
And before we
um,
started recording, you and I, we discussed the timeline of that Google search. I
yeah,
think it was in one of the documentaries, and
yeah,
that the prosecution was saying, or even Jen McCabe was saying, she did not Google that at 2:27 a.m. in the morning. She Googled that once those three women found the body, and they were all frantic and panicking. And that explains the typo that was in that Google search. And she insisted that she Googled that at 6 a.m. in the morning.
yeah. And I remember I think it was the Hulu documentary that I was watching. They were saying that she was searching something about, I want to say it was like women's basketball, like a score or whatever, and then also made that search. But then she's saying, no, I did this actually when I was with Karen. Karen had me search this. And then it was determined by, some type of forensic scientist or computer expert. I have no idea. Someone way smarter than I am. They were saying that, or they were arguing that it goes off of the time the actual window on your phone is opened as opposed to the actual search, which I'm like, it's 2025. How is that not, like, how are we not able to determine when the
The
times were
search happened.
actually, yeah, like
Yeah.
there has to be timestamps. So I don't know. The way that they presented it, I was like, oh, okay, that's believable because I'm not an expert. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it also still doesn't truly make sense to me. Like, I have my doubts, so I can understand, why a juror would have their doubts about that.
Yeah. And let's just assume she Googled it at 2:27 in the morning. The balls this woman has to get in the car with Karen to look for her fiance, knowing that his body is in the front lawn. And then when Karen spots him from the car, she's pretending to not see it. It also sounds crazy. Does it sound
Yeah.
believable? I don't know.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like with the snow plower. If he's saying that he didn't see him or notice him, you're not looking for anything. So it's like, why would you notice it? I mean, sure, yes, if something's out of the blue and you're like, oh shit, like there's a person right there. But like, if you're not looking for something, you're most likely not going to notice it. Now, with
Yeah.
her, if she did know about it, yeah, she's obviously going to, pretend that she didn't see it or just, like have like a blind eye to the situation.
Yeah. I heard on another podcast about the snowplower that his witness statement was actually very credible because apparently the kind of snowplow he was driving is one of those bigger, higher ones. And it's so well lit that from his snowplow, he can even like see like the facade of the house and everything. So it would be very feasible for him to see the entire front lawn. And if there was a body, it's very likely that he would have seen it because his only job, so to speak, is driving that plow and making sure not to hit everything. So he is really out there and trying to look and be very conscious about everything. So they said on a different podcast, which makes sense to me, it is very believable that he would have seen the body because that's the sole thing he does all night is looking for shit.
Right. Yeah. And also, it's a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Person in dark clothing, which is what he was wearing, would be visible.
In the white snow.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe that, he said whatever time he drove by there, the body was not there.
Right. I agree.
So, yeah. Let's talk about the alcohol evidence. You said, and I agree with you, I've, may or may not have done the same driving under the influence, but prosecutors claim that Karen's blood alcohol level was still 0.07 to 0.08 nearly 9 hours later. The defense questions whether this would imply an extremely high VAC earlier, high enough to cause severe impairment. And she herself said, okay, I had 4 drinks, but some of them I only had sips from. I didn't have the full glass. What's your take on that?
I don't know if I really believe her. Because your memory isn't the best, especially the day after drinking. Um, but also just in general, like, time has passed, so you really don't really remember. Um, I think she was trying to save her ass, in my opinion, because, she could have been charged with the DUI, which she ended up getting.
Yeah.
Um, and also it was going to hurt her defense. But I mean, there's evidence where you can see her, holding drinks and stuff, but then she was pouring like her shots into the drink. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think she was only sipping some,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I heard somewhere that the prosecution claimed that she had like 9 drinks. But I
Yeah.
must say, I don't believe she could have driven up to 9 drinks, honestly.
Especially for how tiny she is. Granted, her tolerance could have been high. The drinks could have been, you know,
Watered down.
very, yeah, like watered down.
Yeah,
But I agree. Like, I think she could have gotten in her car. I just don't think she would have driven very well. I think she
yeah,
would be very impaired. And I would assume that, because she was with police officers, she wouldn't have driven or they wouldn't
yeah,
have allowed her to. So I don't necessarily believe she had 9.
yeah. I was just going to say that, I mean, John O'Keefe himself was a police officer. I think if she was really shit-faced to a point where she couldn't have driven anymore, which I would assume after 9 drinks she would have been,
Right.
I believe he would have said something. Or you could flip that coin and say, well, maybe because she was with police officers, she felt safe to not get pulled over or get a right for it.
Right. I agree.
But I don't think she would have been able to drive, honestly, after 9 drinks.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I don't think she
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about additional missing or destroyed evidence. So we learned that the phones were discarded or gotten rid of. The dog was rehomed. Well, guess what? The house was also sold. And I heard somewhere that they, even before they sold the house, replaced the floor inside the house or something. I'm
Yeah,
not
or
sure
like
that
they ripped up the carpet or something.
something.
But also this house was in their family for generations. So the fact that they moved out of their house, their family home, I don't know, doesn't
I
sit
don't
right
know.
with me.
Yeah. And then also on top of all of that, the nearby Ring camera footage was unavailable or deleted. Cell phone data and tower pings raise further unanswered questions not fully explored. I don't have much more detail on that from any of the documentaries, but it sounds weird that it wasn't pointed out. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, why wasn't it though?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't it available? I mean, it probably wasn't pointed out in the documentaries because, again, it wasn't available.
Yeah.
But why?
I also remember from one of the documentaries that they pointed out that he fell on his phone or something.
I heard that too. And that I think he was like on top of it. right?
Yeah. Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
So then we have the verdict. As we heard, the first trial was a mistrial. The second trial, then finally we had a verdict, and it says finally Karen Reed was acquitted of murder and other serious charges in June 2025. Though the jury couldn't agree on a manslaughter charge, leading to a conviction only on the lesser charge of driving under the influence, was sentenced to a year of probation.
Hmm.
Are you happy with that result?
It was okay. So I am, yes. Overall, yes. But I want to say, like, it just didn't sit right with me only because I was so pro that she did it. And I was like, there's no way that, my opinion, I mean, grant, I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything that I've learned about the case, I was like, there's no way she did not do this. And so I feel like it just didn't sit right with me personally. But after, learning all the additional information, having the retrial, and then just learning about all the corruption, I was like, "Yeah, I agree. There's no way she could have done this."
What made you believe, before you knew all the details, what made you believe that she did it?
I think just because of the situation, like, well, they also didn't, provide all the additional details in the first trial, so I only knew what they provided in the first trial. But again, it's someone who's drinking and driving. Her boyfriend allegedly gets hit, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, did I do this?" And I'm
Mm,
like, "Yeah, no shit, you did it." Like, you have no idea what you're doing, under the influence. Even if it's just 1 or 2 drinks, like, that still alters your mind. You could think that, like, "Oh, I only, drove, like, this direction, but, like, or, this angle," but, like, really, you coulda, like, swung over, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
your whole perspective, is just altered. And I was like, "Okay, so I think she was drinking and driving and was very impaired." Um I think that she didn't wanna truly admit that, she was doing that, and then hit her boyfriend, felt guilty about it. At the time, I don't know if she necessarily realized she hit him at the time and therefore she left. I don't even know if, like, I, can say, like, "Oh, yeah, she did this purposely." I think it was an accident, and it just so happened that he was there, and then she didn't realize she hit him.
mhm,
But then, after the next trial and, getting all the additional evidence and just how everything just didn't sit right with literally anyone, I was like, "Okay, no, I can see how they painted the picture and how believable it was that she did hit him."
yeah,
But just after everything came out, I'm like, I don't know, it just gets you questioning.
yeah. And with now the information we have after the second trial, would you say in the first trial her defense team didn't do a well enough job to bring out those evidence?
I don't think they did a not good or not well enough job. I think they did present it well. I think it's just with the evidence that they did release as a whole and, on both sides. Um, yeah, I just don't think there was just enough evidence to argue.
Hmm, interesting. And now, with all the information we have after the second trial, what do you believe happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there could be numerous situations
Hmm.
that could have happened. I think because we learned that Higgins and Karen had, some type of flirtation, and then there's a video at the bar where Higgins is like trying to like have John come out. It kind of looks like they were like arguing, but then John's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, whatever." So my thing is I think something happened in the house and there was an argument, something could have happened, he hit his head, whatever the case is. I don't think Higgins intentionally killed him. I think it was all accidental,
Hmm.
maybe. And then as far as like the, injuries that look like a dog bite, maybe the dog jumped in and like, was attacking him too. Like, I have no idea, but I think everyone there knows what happened. I think they're all part of a cover up. And then
Hmm.
after everything that could have happened, in the house, I think they then just dumped his body.
Hmm.
So,
If it's a cover up, though, why would they dump the body on his own lawn and not somewhere else.
I don't know. I mean, I guess to say, like, okay, Karen was out there. She was in her car. This is where, he could have ended up if she did hit him. She was drinking. Let's put, like, put him here and pin it on her.
But we didn't talk about this. So she said she dropped him off at the foot of the driveway. The body was found on the other side of the lawn, though.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah. I
like, how
don't,
many feet in between, would you say? At least 20, 30 feet?
yes, a good amount for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
that
It's,
doesn't
it's
make sense either.
nothing makes sense about it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I do believe everything is so suspicious. I believe something happened inside the house, whether or not he was killed or was an accidental with the dog jumping in or whatever. But they definitely tried to pin it on Karen for whatever reason. And it was a complete cover up. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah. Just,
Does it make you lose faith in law enforcement, though?
yeah, for sure. Don't come for me, please. No one come for me. But no, I mean, sadly, like, like we talked about with Alan Greenberg, the way that that case was handled,
Yeah,
horribly. Um, I support the police. I'm very grateful for the police, but this is just, another case where everything with the way that they handled it could have changed the whole outcome of the case.
yeah.
Like, I just
And
feel like it wasn't handled properly from
yeah.
start to finish.
And I agree with you. I'm grateful for the police and I support them as well. And one black sheep doesn't make a black herd, right? Although we're discussing those cases where we seemingly talk about the black sheep in the herd, but it doesn't mean that all police would handle anything like that.
Right.
Crazy. All right. And then there were civil suits. Shall we talk about those too?
Sure.
So there are two main civil suits involving Karen Reed. One where the O'Keefe's family is suing Reed for wrongful death, alleging her actions led to his death and seeking damages from her and two bars. My question is, they sit in trial, both of those trials. John O'Keefe's family, horrible as it is as family to have to listen to all the gruesome details, but they hear all the details that you and I just discussed, right? They don't have any suspicion that it wasn't Karen, apparently. They strongly believe the other side's story that it was Karen. Tree must have hit him, despite all the questions we just raised in the last 40 minutes. So they hear all those facts and they still move forward with a civil suit against her.
Yeah. I think it goes back to, when I was saying that police officers, they all stick together. Your own people stick with each other. So I think they're thinking there's no way that a fellow officer or fellow officers are going to do that to another officer.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. I think, possibly, I mean, they know Karen. So maybe they're like, we feel this type of way about her from before. And then this is just like the cherry on top. So who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. I think they must be so in denial. And maybe they're even, let's say, a little sweet talked by the cops,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, and also though, like, they can't have their family members come back.
Right.
Not only did his nieces and nephew, or I'm sorry, his niece and nephew that he took in lost their uncle, who's their caregiver, they lost both of their parents. That's why John
Right.
was their caregiver.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not saying like anyone's like money hungry or anything. I'm just saying maybe this is like, okay, if I can't have them back and, she wasn't found guilty, maybe this is the way that they get justice for themselves.
Provide for them if it's about money.
Yeah.
And also, I can see that the police is a family in itself, and
Mhm.
maybe that also played a role of that they took care of each other.
Right.
I still have, I don't know.
Yeah.
If I was the mother of somebody being murdered and I sit through the trial and hear all this, I would assume that I would eventually come out of my denial and say, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, my opinion changed. I wouldn't be surprised if other people's opinions didn't change again, but we're also like not involved.
Emotionally.
Yes. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just like they don't know the answer, the true answers that, this is something that they need to believe to get by.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's another civil suit where Karen Reed is suing Massachusetts State Police. And I'm so proud of myself for being able to pronounce Massachusetts. So she's suing Massachusetts State Police investigators and witnesses, alleging a conspiracy, framing, and civil rights violation, and believe also defamation, which I believe she should. And I hope she wins.
Yes, I agree. It's the least that they can do. Like,
Yeah.
just the way that they handled everything,
Yeah.
she deserves it.
Yeah. And now circling back to what I said earlier, after knowing all those facts from the Hulu documentary that we watched, I do understand now why she would allow Hulu into this documentary while she was preparing for trial.
Mhm.
Maybe it was all part of her own protection and defense system to get the right information out there.
Yeah, because I think the way that she was painted in the picture before the documentary came out, I think the way that she was painted was that she killed her police officer boyfriend. And
Mhm.
so she's like, well, no, I need to have my own, story
Yeah.
put out there and I need to, control the narrative. And I think that was the only way that she knew how to do it. And
Yeah.
she knew,
It-
everyone loves true crime. So
yeah.
it's like, all right, well, she clearly got the views.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's very brave of her because,
I
there were also some details that came out that are not very flattering for herself, right?
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Like the Ben Higgins stuff. And, she was engaged to John O'Keefe and she was sending flirtatious texts and that she had a kiss with Ben Higgins,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
I think it's worth it though. Like if you're gonna try, I mean, her life was literally on the line. So it's like, what does she have to lose at this point?
Yeah.
Her a bad opinion, a bad image or whatever. But at least she won't be found guilty of murder.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe we got to this point with under 50 minutes. I'm so proud of us.
I know. I feel like
Because,
there's so much more to the story.
yeah.
Like we can go on and on and on, but
Yeah.
ugh.
Do you feel there is anything noteworthy that we didn't mention yet? Is there anything on the top of your mind that we should bring in here?
um, not that I can think of.
Yeah, same. I mean, we didn't really touch on the taillight pieces. We mentioned it that at first they couldn't find them at the crime
Well,
scene.
yeah,
And then there's this tampered video that is mirrored where you can see somebody smashing the light. And there's surveillance camera that showed the light was intact when she came back home. And then all of a sudden the next morning, I believe, like when the sunlight was up, they found the pieces on the crime scene. That was very suspicious too.
yeah. So they were saying, well, again, there was a snowstorm, so I was like, all right, like, they do have that argument that they couldn't find any evidence, and then, it was in the middle of the night or early morning. Then, time has passed, and then they eventually found, and I can't remember. I want to say it was like a couple weeks where they found the glass that he was holding. And then again, yeah, like you said, the taillight was found, sometime afterwards, which I'm like, okay, it's a bright red glass
Mm,
or,
Yeah.
piece of plastic,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It would have stuck out in the snow. How did they miss that?
Yeah.
It just everything, I don't know. It just
Nothing makes sense.
nothing makes sense. Nothing.
Yeah, I think there was also a discussion about the pieces found. Was it just the cover of the light that was broken? Was it the light bulb itself? Because I think they found pieces of the light bulb itself, but then the surveillance camera, when she came back home, showed the light was clearly functioning.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
couldn't have been the light bulb. There were all those questions too.
And then with the video, they said that there was, well, I forget who it was. I'm blanking on her name, but she was like, "Why is Higgins in alone with her car for like 45 minutes?" She's like, I'm questioning it. Which, yeah, like why was he in her car, like by her car
Yeah,
that amount of time or whatever? And then they were saying that the video, there's like, X amount of time missing.
yeah.
Where is it? What happened to it?
Yeah. But also we discussed his injuries, if they even make sense from being hit by a car. Let's put it on the car. Does the light break the way it was broken from hitting a body? It's the other question, right?
Yeah, like, and also like, okay, say it did, but like, are the injuries didn't really match up to like the damage to the car. Like none of it
Yeah.
meshed
Yeah.
well. It
And none
didn't
of
make
the
sense.
and none of the taillight pieces were in his wounds.
Right. Yeah. you would think that there would be at least some type of like little, residue.
Yeah. Because apparently they fell into her like bumper or something of the car. I don't know. Everything is so weird with this case.
Yeah. Nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense.
Karen Reed case. Nothing makes sense.
Nothing
And
makes sense.
why?
Yes. Any final words, Paige?
Go Karen Reed. I am now officially pro Karen Reed.
Yeah. And some words for the O'Keefe family.
My heart goes out to you guys. I'm very sorry for the situation that you're in. I hope one day that the actual truth comes out and that you guys can get justice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paige, so much for coming on. I love doing these cases with you. I hope we do another one. Any worst cases, or we can ask the bitch besties to send us a quiz.
Some recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a case on your mind that you would like to discuss?
Oof. I have so
Putting you
many.
to the spot.
I
I
have
know.
so many. We can take it back, you know, 30 years into O.J. Simpson.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That would be a good one. Especially my work. Did I tell you that my work is just around the corner from the bungee drive where that happened?
That is freaking crazy.
Okay, so maybe do an OJ one.
Yeah.
That
Listen,
would be
honestly, any true crime case, I'm sold.
I know, right? I might have a personal story too. I fill you in after.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bitch besties, for listening. Let us know what you think. Give us your feedback, your hot tags. Reach out to Paige and me. We can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye.
That was it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you are as excited and opinionated as Peanut and me, please give us a follow on Instagram at the Judgy Bitch Pod. And don't forget, please also tell everybody you know about this new podcast so they come and follow us as well. We would much appreciate it. Would you like to be part of it? Sure, go ahead. Send us a DM with your feedback, your hot takes, and your unapologetic opinions. We might read them next time. And last but not least, don't forget, please follow, review, and rate wherever you listen to this podcast. See you next week. Cheers, bitches.